Right, hello and welcome to part 4 of the Unity series. Right, so here, first off the bat, I'm going to open in Unity this free sound effects pack, okay, and I'm going to import it. I've done that already, I just didn't want to do it on camera because it's boring, on record, so it's boring. So I've done that, imported that in, and it's given me some sound effects, and they are here. Assets, free pack. I've chosen this one as my pickup noise. I really don't care what one. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty object called sound controller, because I want my sound to be controlled by this system here. And then I'm going to go to my scripts and I'm going to make a script called sound controller. I'm going to drag it onto the sound controller, surprisingly enough. Right, so now here, the reason I'm making a sound controller is I can set the audio clips all in one place. So if I want to change the sounds, I mean, there are many ways you can do this. I'm not saying the way I've coded this whole thing is perfect. To be honest, probably I would have made the energy cell do the speeding up of the player rather than putting it in the player in this collector thing. But either works, and for a tutorial, this is what we're going to do so far. So what I'm now going to do is go in here and delete this because we don't need it. Go serialize field, private, speed boost sound, and I should have done audio clip, speed boost sound, except I shouldn't have that space, but I'll fix that very quickly. There we go, audio clip, speed boost sound. If I save that and then come back here, you will see that I have a spot for my sound effects. If I go to my free pack, it is that one. So I go to speed controller, I drag that into there, and now I've got my sound effect that I want to be played when I pick up the coin. Now I'm going to go to the player controller, and the collector wants to be able to access that sound controller script. So I need to go into the player controller. I'm going to copy and paste this because it's mostly what I want, except it is sound controller. Oh. There we go, sound controller. Right. So I'm going to go there, go to my drone, drag in sound controller. So now I can access the sound controller script from my drone in player collect. Right. So we go to player collect. So here, now I'm just going to show you a little trick because, yeah, no, I'll leave it in there. I'll do that later. No, I won't actually. I'll drag it in here. So I'll do this thing called refactoring. You can right click on it and do refactor like this, and it's going to extract this out to a method. Okay, and I'm going to call it energy cell picker, because really I might have more than one collision to check later on, and so I don't want all the code to be in there. It'd be nice if it was just like this. I could even do a switch case statement, but I don't really mind loads of ifs like this. This is why it's not a good idea to really do the checking of collisions in the player, because you'll end up with loads of these. Whereas I could do a different one for each one. But anyway, this will work. So it just extracts out the method. So when I touch the energy cell, it's going to run this method here with the appropriate other that it's sending through, etc., etc. Right. So now we need to play the sound effect. Okay. So we need a play sound method in here. So now we're going to need to play sound in here. So we're going to make a public, because we'll need to do it, void method called play sound at, right? Now we're going to need, this is the key thing. It's going to need parameters, because we're going to need to say which sound. So that's the, now we need to know how to define that, because let's do play coin sound, play speed sound, and then it's going to need a game object. Now I'm going to tell you why it's going to need a game object. We'll call it Geo, because it's going to play a speed sound in 3D at the right place. So it'll sound, so it needs the place of the object to play the sound at. So when we touch here, we're going to send in the game object of the actual pickup that we collected. So we go sound controller dot play speed sound, and then we're going to send in the game object because it's going to use the position of that game object to play the sound. So our sound controller takes one parameter, a game object, we go here. So here we need to go to, all right, we need to go to, let me just audio source dot play clip at point, and then it's going to take the audio clip, which is speed boost sound, followed by comma, followed by the game object position, which I think I've got to do geo dot transform dot position. Right. Okay. Play clip at point. That looks correct. Will it work? Let's find out. It did. There you go. I'm surprised that worked first time without me messing something up. So no, it worked. Hurrah. There you go. That was simple as that, really. Now, obviously, we could have a sound play when it runs out or something go on, but I'm not going to worry about that. I just want to show you how to make sound happen, really. So just be clear there, that play sound, that clip. So let's just go through it very briefly, right? So I've created a sound controller and I've added an audio clip in. That's the reason why I like a sound controller, because if you wanted to change the sound now, I just go to my sound controller. Now you can do it in the cell here, but then I don't know, maybe it's up to you. I don't know. I like the idea of having my speed boost sound is here. All my sounds are here. You know, I don't know. It's up to you to style it. When the game gets big, obviously this might get unmanageable, but then I would use something else. So I'll explain much later in the game, which is I would use a file. Basically, you can have files where you can set things up. So I would use that. But anyway, let's not go into that. A scriptable object is the name of it. So anyway, so there we go. Excellent. So now what we need is enemies. So I'm sorry, I forgot to explain that. So we, in our player controller, we get access to the sound controller script. We send in, we execute the method with the game object we just touched, because this is 3D sound. That's why you need the game object. Because if we were, now you can't really, obviously you can't tell on the recording, but if we were like looking at it sort of like, if we touched it like that, obviously this isn't very good. Well, you can't really touch this to the side, but if we played a clip sound over here, it would sound more on the left, you know, and on the right. It does the 3D version of the sound, you know, but it's very hard to, yeah, obviously it's going to be in the middle. And either way, you would better remember it, because I don't think I'm recording it that way. But there you go, you get the gist, it plays. So now we need an enemy, right? So I'm going to go and get an enemy off of the asset store. So I chose this one here, alien spaceships. You can pick whatever one you want. I'm just going to do that. I will, of course, pause while I do the importing. So I'll import that. So that's all been imported now. And we can add them in. I assume it goes into there. No. Where's it gone? This one. Yep. Prefabs. Ooh. Let's pick the green one. Okay. Brilliant. Fantastic. So I'm going to make it bigger. And then I actually don't like it as, I might actually shrink it a bit. I thought it looks a bit better like that. And also it's got an odd rotation in my opinion, so I'm going to rotate it up a bit. As you know, I'll leave it like that. Might look better in game actually. Let's check it. Might look worse. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, I might do that and then lower it. Whatever. I'm just messing around. Doesn't really matter what make the enemy, right? So let's just check if okay. So it's not got a collision collider. So that's one thing we can notice straight away. There's no collider on it. So I'm going to add a collider. And there are many options. I could add a few colliders. I'm going to add, I think, a spherical collider. And then I'm going to focus on it by pressing F. And then I'm going to click this to edit it. And I'm going to shrink it. Oh, that was stupid. Click this to edit. Where's the dot? There it is. And I'm going to hold Alt. And that will bring it to the middle. I mean, that is pretty good, to be honest. Maybe I should have done a capsule. That'll do. Okay, that's our collider for it. I'm going to give it a tag and as enemy. So we know when we've shot something, it's an enemy, or the enemy knows it's been hit by a bullet or whatever. And there you go. So that's that. Okay, so I've got an enemy in, and I'm just going to have the enemy sit there and get shot for now, and then we'll worry about, you know, other things later. So look around him when you close up. Yeah, we can shoot you. Brilliant. If we need to, I sort of feel like maybe we should raise our drone slightly more off the floor, maybe 1.5, and that would make the world look a bit more normal. We could also raise our capsules as well if we need to. They still work, of course, but they look a bit weird at that point of the floor. There we go. Look, that's a bit better. He looks a bit more like he wants to get shot now. Brilliant. So I'm going to add in the ability to get a projectile. Now, for simplicity's sake, I will just create a 3D sphere. And I'm going to call it projectile because I'm going to teach you about prefab now, which is an important thing. You may have noticed these things are blue because they are prefabs because we've brought them in. But now I want to teach you how to make your own sort of things in case you don't have a prefab or you just have a model that you bring in. Then we can talk about how to make a sort of thing, a proper thing of it. So I'm going to call this like plasma, right? Okay, I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to move it actually out of the way. In fact, I'll move the, not that rotation. If I move that out of the way, actually I should zero these really. 0, 0, 0, click there, click on the plasma, press F, right. You can double click on it and stuff. Right, so let's focus on that. So we need to make this a prefab. And what a prefab is, imagine it's like a cookie cutter. So that if I wanted to make loads of them, okay, then I make them a prefab and then I can instantiate versions of them, right? So I'm going to go to my assets and I'm going to create a prefabs folder, which is what I normally would do. Although I may not. Prefabs, and I'm going to drag this in. And when I drag it in, it's going to make it's going to go blue and it's going to be down here. So what that means is if I make any changes to this one, because the end is I'm going to delete this. I've now got a file that is that object that I can sort of instantiate. So I can edit this here, okay, by double clicking on it. And then in the game, I'm going to make my drone make this plasma thing, spawn it. Okay, but so now I need something on it. Now I'm going to go on the internet and I'm going to get some, I'm going to go on Google. I'm going to get fire texture, fire game texture. Actually, I'll get purple plasma texture or something like this. Hopefully we'll get one that's repeating, seamless. It says it's seamless. Let's save it to our folder. I'll save it to our downloads pictures folder. And then I'm going to copy it, by the way, to my Unity folder, which I'll do here. Go to pictures. Now, annoyingly, I think it's given me this warning, so I better keep it. There we go. Right. So if I open this in Explorer, you'll see it's there. So prefabs, I'm going to copy in my texture. So it should appear here now, and I should be able to drag it on. Oh, look at that. That looks actually it's much better than I thought it was going to look, to be honest. So, yeah, there we go. So I could also, you know, give it a lot, you know, cast shadows to other things, change the materials and other things to it. But yeah, that's pretty okay though, isn't it? Could fiddle with stuff here, but this is not really relevant. Don't mean any of this really. It's quite good. It looks all right. So that's my plasma ball it's going to shoot. So let's have a look at it in situ. That looks pretty good. Okay, it's going to shoot these balls at them like that. Right. Brilliant. So we'll just delete the instantiated version because we've got the plasma thing down here, and this is where we want to do any editing because obviously we're going to, you know, want to make these. So yes, that's basically it really. We do need to add a collider, but it has done that for us. Fantastic. Yeah, there we go. Job done. So let's now make it shoot them. Okay, so let's get on with that. So we need to go to we need to make a player shooting script. Go to player, create, C# script, player shooting. They're shooting, didn't come up. They're shooting. Right, and then the first thing we need to do is say what we're going to shoot. So we do serialized field, private, game object, plasma bullet. Okay, save that. Delete start. Don't need it for now. We're going to steal. I'm not going to go back and select the bullet yet because we know what we're doing. Get the player movement. I'm just going to very quickly copy the code out from this into here. And I'm going to check for space because that's going to be my shoot key, not Sapaka though. And then I'm going to create a version of that object. So to create a version of something, you have to instantiate it. Right, so we do instantiate. Surprisingly enough. Plasma bullet. Transform.position. Oh my god, I never spelled that word. Transform.rotation. Because we want it to take our rotation, our position. Brilliant. Excellent. Save it. Okay, so we're going to make a bullet. Now, before we do that though, we're going to need to put that bullet inside the drone. Because at the moment it says none. Game object none. So we need to drag that plasma bullet in there. Okay? Otherwise it's not going to know what to instantiate. So we're going to play it. Then we're going to hit space. Oh, okay. Well, that looks cool. But that's quite cool. Look at that. But not what we wanted. And that's because I've done key down instead of key pressed. So let's go back on get key pressed. That's, oh, my typing is rocking. Or is it get key down? Get key down. If in doubt, guess. Right. So then you press play. There you go. It's only doing one. But of course, the bullet just sits there looking cool. Looks like I'm dropping droid poos around. It's not really shooting them anywhere, is it? I mean, it's still quite cool, and I like sort of dodging the idea of them. But it's not really shooting them. Also, the plasma ball is massive, and we need to shrink it. But let's just scale it to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, actually 0.4, 0.4, and 0.4. And we'll fix the fact that it comes out the middle of us in a bit because it's coming right out there and we need an offset because that's not a very good spot for it to come out of. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. There's many ways, but actually the easiest way is to create a game object that I'm going to call like shooting point, right? Not shotting point, that would be rubbish. Shooting point. And then I'm going to focus in and then I'm going to give that a little icon. Like this. Is there a smaller one? Like that. And then I'm going to move that to where I want it to shoot from. And I'm going to, that's the back, isn't it? Well, I think it looks like the front, really. But anyway. We'll say there. Right. And then in the drone shooting, I'm going to actually have to get a position. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go transform. I could get the whole game object, but and just do game objects. But as I only want the transform from the game object, that's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to go that. So we're going to get the shooting points position, the shooting points rotation. Save that. Then, and because this is a child of that, notice how it's underneath there. They're going to follow. So if this was to rotate, you see how it moves with it. Right, so then I drag in the shooting point into there, and then we're going to use the shooting point's position, which is ahead, as you can see. At least it doesn't, really look that good there, but you can see that I am, it's outside because you can see the drone's in the middle. There you go. So quite easy way to make a sort of shooting point or a point is to make a little object, stick it as a child. I'm just going to do what's called break the where is it? I'm going to prefab. I'm going to unpack completely. That's just unlinking it. So basically unpack, I'll do this all these. Unpack is essentially making it no longer a version, I'm going to delete that one, of the prefab. Because they had a prefab in their kit, which is where they've set up everything. Now, if I unpack it, now it's not a prefab anymore. Well, it's not linked to the prefab. There's still a file in here, but this isn't it, because now I can make my copies of it. So I can make that enemy, and then I can make my version of it, like down here in my prefab. So I've got my enemy. I can make an energy cell, and it's not linked to the one in the original. Like I don't want, it doesn't really matter. I could have edited the original, but now I've got mine. I mean, do I really need a drone prefab? But anyway, there you go. But now it's my one, not the one that's in their folder in here where I got, you know, whatever it was in here, drone prefabs. Before it was literally linked to that file, but now I'm leaving their one alone. You know, so if I ever want the original, I've got it, and now I'm messing with my prefab file, which is here. Okay, and I've got that. I should really put that in materials. There we go. Yeah. So that's good. There we go. We've got our prefabs. So anyway, that's that done. So now we need to make the bullet move, right? That's really what we need to do. So there we go. Now there's many ways you could do this. You could do this in the bullet. You could have the bullet have its own speed, but I want the sort of plasma speed to be altered by the player. So he has like different levels of speed of shooting and things like that, like how fast the bullets come out and things like that. So I want these plasmas to be really controlled by the player setting their speed. So what I need is just a piece of code on the bullets that I can set variables like X, Y, and Z move speed, and it just sets the move speed. Simple as that. So I'm going to go to Plasma, go to Scripts. I'm going to create Plasma movement, and then I'm going to put that on Plasma. Now I'm going to show you the other way to do that is you can click here, do add, and then I'm going to type Plasma, but spell it right, and then it will get my script. So this is going to be a script that I can set variables for. I need the update. And it'll move. In fact, it's just going to be called object movement, actually, but I'm going to do it for the Plasma. So I'm going to create a serialized field of X speed. Obviously, I'll make it private and a float. Actually, I could just do a vector of 3 for X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to, let's do a vector 3 of speed. Right. And then I'm just going to do transform dot position plus equals speed times time dot delta time. Yep, that's it. So if I set those to anything other than 0, it'll move. And let's just test that. I know I haven't got any set and get functions here, but I can test that by making a plasma and then changing it in the editor and then see if it shoots off in the direction I make it. So if I make a thing, go back, go to plasma and then set that Z to 5, off it goes. There we go. And if I set that to 5, it head over there. So all we need to do is be able to set, which we can do from our forward. Yeah, we've got our forward. So as soon as we do it, so we can just do we need to have one more thing in there, which is just a set, a public void set speed, which takes a vector 3 called speed, and then we just do speed equals speed, lowercase speed. There we go. That's it. So that's all we need in there. And obviously we need to access that. So I'm gonna create that there. So we just need to set speed to something, right? And it's off. So we go to the player shooting here. And when we instantiate it, now we need to get access to that game objects script. So we can't just instantiate without doing this now. So we need to get this, we'll call it temp, because that's going to basically return the object. So now it's exactly the same thing we instantiate, but now returning the object back into temp. So then we can do plasma movement. Yeah, I'll call it plasma movement equals temp dot get component. Remember this weird thing we did earlier. You do just have to learn this. Okay, so now we have created a game object called temp, which is the bullet. Then we've accessed, we've got the component to the script, and then we can set it to set, what was it called? Oh god, I really wish I should remember stuff. Set speed, it's got dot set speed. No, not temp, sorry, that's why it's coming up, not it. Plasma movement, sorry, dot set speed, And then we know what ours is, transform dot forward, but we need to times it by bullet speed. And I'm going to make a little variable at the top called bullet speed, which is going to be a float. But we can set like how fast the bullets travel. And of course that could be upgradable. We'll set it to 5 now. Actually, let's set it to 20 because I think I want to shoot fast. But the point is we could adjust that. So now we can create, this will shoot at different speeds. Like this is not about our fire rate. We'll sort that out in a minute. Okay, we can just spam the buttons fast. But this is about how fast the bullet will move when we shoot. Okay, so it's gonna make the bullet, get a copy of the component, and then set the speed of this variable to speed, and then it'll just move itself. There's no collider on it, or there is a collider on it. There's no collisions yet, but we'll worry about that in a minute. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Obviously, we need a sound effect. My booming pathetically there was terrible. But let's add a sound effect. So now we've got the sound controller. Okay. We can edit it to have another one of these. Plasma sound. And then I'm going to do. Now, really, at this point, it would have been good to have put this in some sort of array and then have like just not have all these different, exactly the same things, but or literally do it by the name up here and it looks at the text and switches. But whatever. There we go. Plays plasma game objects. Plasma sound, and it plays plasma sound. There we go. So let's go back to the player shooting. So we're going to need to access the sound controller. And then we do sound controller dot play plasma sound, and the and it is shooting. Oh, does this take a game object? This takes a game object. So actually, I mean, we could play it at us because it isn't really going to make a difference here. We'll just do a game object, save, and then of course, don't forget we need to go to the player controller and drag in the sound controller. Otherwise, it won't be able to access it. If you know if that was quick, just remember you can pause, go back. So I've added the private link to a sound controller. I've done that. There we go. And later on, I will talk about something called a singleton, which would allow you to not have to do all this get stuff. You can make a static class, so there's only one of it, and then anyone can access that by literally writing like soundcontroller.play, soundcontroller.whatever. But right now, I'm trying to show you the ways. You don't want to show you too much at once. Don't forget, we need to put a sound in there. Autocannon, whatever. I'm not even going to look. So you can change that to whatever you want. I don't mind it. I'm keeping it. Yeah, I mean, I may turn that off after a while. But anyway, get the point. They're off forever. Oh, these bullets don't die as well, by the way. They literally go forever and ever and ever. You could do a thing to stop them. You could do a distance. You could do an invoke so they die. If you want to know how to do that, if we go to plasma movement, you could do a serialized field. Why is it doing that? Flow time alive equals, let's do 1 so we can see it die, but obviously you want it more than 1. And then as it is, let's go to start. Then you would go invoke kill bullet, which I'm going to write in a second. And then you do it in time alive. And then you make a private kill bullet void, private void kill bullet, and then just destroy game objects. Yeah, so as soon as it's created, it invokes death to itself in 1 second. And there's other ways you could do it. You could put colliders up around the edges that, if you wanted it just to go forever until it hits the edge. I don't know. And depends what you want. Obviously, it's down to your choice. There you go. You can see it dies after 1 second. That sound's going to be annoying, isn't it? Is there a quieter one? That's a bit better. But less annoying. But anyway, yeah, so you got the gist. That's basically that. So what do we do now? We need the bullet to kill the enemy, don't we? So we have an enemy. It's got a collider. Now, there are many ways you could do this. Again, I'm going to do it in the enemy gets hit with the bullet. And then what I'm going to do is have every bullet have a damage script on it that has like how much stats it does in damage and other things like this. And I'll explain that more. I know it gets complicated, but I wanted to show you how you might do it properly. So if you've got enemy, we're going to add a script called enemy damage or enemy health. And that's going to do the health. So we go into there. I'm just going to delete all these for now because I like to add them if I need them to get my notes. Right. So serialized field. Private. Oh, I always forget float. Health equals 100. I'm going to do health float. Then I'm going to do. That'll do for now. Right. So we're going to check if something has hit us. So because we have to check if something hit us, we need to give the plasmas a rigid body because they must. One of the objects in a collision has to have a rigid body. And seeing as the bullets are going to hit a lot of things, one of them has to have a rigid body. So we're going to give it a rigid body. And then we're going to make it kinematic. Otherwise it will fall to the floor and bounce around, which could be cool. But if we take off kinematic, it'll you know. Okay, so just going to very quickly finishing off getting the enemy to die now. So we've got the thing is, because we want the bullet to have possibly different power levels, how I would solve this is I would go to the bullet prefab. I'll make a script called duck damage. And this could even have things in it like damage type, damage other stuff, right? So everything that damages you is going to have this in it. Now, there is another way of doing this that's a bit more professional, but I'm going to get into that much later. Okay, so anyway, the point is I'm going to make a class damage, and it's going to have a serializable field for private, obviously, with a float called damage amount. And it's going to do 20F, right? Now, I could put something, say I had a game where I had lightning damage, fire damage. I could put the damage type in here. Has it got a damage over time effect? Has it got other effects? I can put lots of other stuff in here that the enemy can look at and apply to itself. In this case, it's just going to have a damage type. Obviously, I'm going to make just very quickly, I wonder if it'll do that for me. Quick actions, generate, constructor, generate. No, I was wondering if it was going to make like get set ones for me, but it didn't. I'm going to make a public set damage amount. Get damage amount, because we're going to need to get this public float, get damage amount, and that's going to return damage amount. And then we need a set damage amount. That is void. That is going to be damage amount equals D, and then it's going to take a float of D, damage amount. Damage amount. Right, so that's just been public set and get methods of the damage. So then we're going to attach that script to our anything that damages, really. In this case, it's going to be just the anything that when hit causes damage, but here it's going to be this, so it's going to cause 20 damage. So 5 hits is going to kill the enemy. So basically, when we create our plasma, now if we only want it to be 20, but let's go back to the player shooting, we could also here now, because we've created the game object, we played the sound, we still got this game object temp. If we wanted to change the damage amount, we could set it in the player. So you could have like a current damage amount. And as you get power-ups, you increase the damage amount. Okay, or damage amount. And we'll set it to 25, just so you can see that it changes it. So then we would go damage equals, and we get the damage from there. Okay, then we say damage dot set damage. No, yes. Damage set damage. Yeah, set damage amount. Why didn't it come up when I type SE? SE nothing, and then SET set damage. To damage amount. And so we're actually setting. Yeah, it's been very slow to update. That is setting the damage from the script here. Okay. Now, this is not how you would always do it. Sometimes you wouldn't. You would literally have it in the object, but I'm just showing you different ways and different ways of doing things so that you can see them. So I'm getting. So that's basically every bullet has a damage script on it. So now I can make a different bullet, like a different one, plasma 2, rocket, fire, and they all have damage on them. You know, if I was making a different game, I might make damage types, and certain enemies take double damage against whatever ones, and so or have other abilities if I'm hit by whatever. Remember that I'm going to tag this, add a tag to this. I just realised I didn't tag my plasma thing. I'm going to call it plasma, or in this case, accidentally type enter and plasma. So I'm tagging my bullet as plasma. Okay, don't forget to tag your bullet as plasma. You haven't done that. It's telling me the enemy health is never used down here. Ignore that. So I've got plasma. So my bullets now have this script on it. So now my enemy, if I can take that because that's going to be helpful in a minute. All right. So when I go to my enemy controller, which is enemy health, okay, then I'm going to need to do an on trigger event because we have on trigger enter. Okay, so we've been hit by something. If the other dot tag is equal to plasma, then we're going to get access to the damage amount, so it's other dot get component. We're going to get the damage amount. I was just going to, we'll do health minus equals the get damage amount from it. So we're going to take off the health, and then in the update, so that it's constantly being checked, if health is less than or equal to 0, destroy ourselves. Okay, so if we hit the plasma tag, we've got to destroy the plasma thing as well. Otherwise, this will kill us instantly. So destroy other. Okay, so as soon as it hits us, we destroy it. Right, so let's try it. Oh, I've just realised I have not put the enemy script on the enemy. So we add the enemy health script onto it. So the enemy's got that. So then we're going to go there. And now if I scroll around and shoot the enemy. Okay, that's weird. The bullet's not dying. Is the enemy dying? Well, the enemy's dying. The bullet's not dying. So let's go back and check the code. Destroy other. That's that's a collider. So I need to do other dot game object, not other, because that will destroy the collider, but not the game object. Should work. There we go, hooray, it worked. Speed boost. And you can see it only took 4 hits because it did take our damage from the other thing. I'll take out hit, which I was using to test some things. So I'll be honest with you, I tested it a minute ago and I'd forgotten to put the enemy script on. It took me about 5 minutes to realise why. I was going, why is it not the colliders? So just to make sure you've got everything, if it doesn't work for you, I'm going to go over what you need. Make sure you've got, I don't think actually need is trigger on the sphere collider on the enemy. It just needs to be a trigger on the, yeah. It just doesn't matter if it is or not. It's not really make much difference. Probably we do want it because we're going to probably want to figure out if we run into it or something. But anyway, it doesn't really matter right now. So, and then on the plasma ball, we've got a rigid body with kinematic selected. Otherwise, it won't work. And make sure you've got a sphere collider with the trigger ticked. Otherwise, if that's not ticked, that definitely won't work. So you definitely need the rigid body, kinesthetic, sphere collider tick. That just needs a collider on it, and then all be good. Now, if you wanted to do a little bit extra work, you could possibly add sound effects. So when the bullet hits the enemy it's played, you could do that in the bullet or in the enemy. Probably best in the bullet. You could do it on the on destroy event. Actually, I could do that, and then you could see the on destroy event. So on destroy or on disable. So the plasma bullet, where's the plasma movement? So you could do like on destroy. That means it's been destroyed, and then you could play the sound there. So we print like dead plasma, right? Then this event gets triggered anytime it dies. But the problem with that is it does get triggered. Well, you don't want to do it on the on destroy, because then when you destroy it by disappearing, it will play then as well. So that's the problem with on destroy. It does things even when you're not actually hitting. So probably you want to do some sort of sound effect where you hit. So like you could do the trigger. In fact, you could have a trigger here as well, and then do on trigger on both. But that's up to you. You can figure out how to add the extra sound effect to that. I mean, you can make the enemy make it, or whatever. So there you go. Not the perfect system so far. I don't think I'll add a lot more to the game, really. I'll probably start a new one next time because it's getting a bit boring doing this one. Obviously, we could have enemy movement and other stuff, but I think we've got the gist of what I aim to get out of this first little project. You know, we could have a score or a user interface. Maybe I will continue this one. Who knows? Maybe I'll start something new. So anyway, that's that video done.